Joining us today is Dr. Mike Schnelle, Professor of Ornamental Horticulture. Well, Mike, I wanted to talk today about winter tree care, and I have a nice example of what happens when we don't take care of our trees. If we look down here, I have an example of southwest injury or winter scald.
Okay.
So obviously we want to counter that by wrapping trees.
Yeah.
What's the appropriate timing and materials we want to use?
What I like to tell people on wrapping is to start from the ground up to the first scaffold branches. You start about this time in October, and then you take them off next spring, early to mid-March is the good time to take them off.
And we want to get them off that early. What's the reason behind that?
As the weather warms up, it starts to raise in the humidity and can foster diseases and other issues. And the real benefits during the wintertime where you're keeping this bark evenly cool, reflecting the sun so the cambial cells do not warm up, only to have the temperatures plummet and then get the sun scald or southwest injury.
And this type of damage happens most commonly on smooth bark trees.
Smooth bark, young trees, and even though this perotea is a great tree from the Middle East, it too obviously is subject to those problems when it's been limbed up, which was no fault of ours, but limbed up and then subject to our erratic temperature swings in the wintertime here in Oklahoma.
What are some other things we want to think about in protecting our trees during the winter time?
Well, besides the tree wrap issues, I like that you have this tree mulch, so it's going to go into the winter mulch. It looks like you have ample moisture, so it won't dehydrate. I notice we have some evergreens behind us, and these broadleaf evergreens are particularly susceptible because they're transpiring, they're losing water throughout the winter months, so it's particularly important that we keep them evenly moist, even if we have to go out and winter irrigate this year or early next year. That's imperative.
I like to check at least once a month in the winter to make sure the plants are getting enough water.
That's a good rule of thumb because dehydration injury on these broadleafs is a much greater problem I think than we realize, because we all get busy and forget to water.
You could kind of think about what your landscape looked like last February, March. If you had a lot of the tip injury, that's going to be a bit of that drying and dehydration.
Absolutely. It's water loss, it sure is. So those are some practical tips that would go a long ways to have a better tree and a longer lived plant.
A lot of our trees are still recovering from the drought of previous years, and I think that making sure we maintain that water in the coming months is going to make a big impact.
They're absolutely going into the winter in a weakened state, just like you said. Anything we can do, to put them in a more favorable environment will go a long ways for bringing them back to health in the next 2 or 3 years, because it takes several years to bring these trees back.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.